I need to preface this by saying I still work security jobs. Just not that one. Not anymore. 2 years ago, I took a night shift at Maple Grove, a storage facility on the edge of town. The kind of place with a few hundred units, some rented by people moving house, some rented by people who didn't want anyone asking what was inside. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 nights a week. Sit in the booth, watch the cameras, walk the rows twice a night. $9 over minimum wage to be bored out of my mind. That's what I thought I was signing up for. The facility had 6 rows, lettered A through F, motion sensor lights down every row, chain link fencing around the perimeter, 1 gate, 1 camera pointed at that gate. My booth sat right by the entrance. From there I could see the monitor wall, 12 small screens, 1 for each camera, cycling through every few seconds. My first 2 weeks were nothing. I want to be clear about that because I know how these stories go, and I know you're waiting for the first sign of something wrong. There wasn't one. It was just quiet. Almost too quiet, if I'm honest. I'd walk the rows and hear nothing but my own boots on gravel and the hum of the lights kicking on above me, one after another as I passed. It was the start of my 3rd week when I noticed the first thing. I was doing my midnight walkthrough, row C, when a light at the far end, down by unit C14, didn't turn on. Every other light on the row lit up as I approached, that automatic click hum they all made. But C14's stayed dark. I stood there for a second, waiting, in case it was just slow. It wasn't. I made a note to report it in the morning and kept walking. When I came back around on my 2nd walkthrough at around 4 a.m., the light was on, working fine. I didn't think much of it. Bulbs flicker, sensors glitch. That's what I told myself. The 2nd night, it happened again. Same unit, same light. Dark on my 1st pass, working on my 2nd. By the 4th night, I started timing it. I'd walk past C14 around 12:15 and the light wouldn't come on. I'd walk past again around 4 a.m. and it would. Every single time, like clockwork, except backwards, like something was making sure the row stayed dark during a very specific window and then letting it go back to normal before my 2nd round. I checked the camera footage for row C the next morning before my shift ended. The camera covering that row showed exactly what I expected, rows of static units, nothing moving, lights cycling on as I walked past, except for the 12 minutes or so around C14 each night, when the footage just showed darkness. Not glitching, not static, just black, like something was blocking the lens, and then it would clear right up again. I told my supervisor. He said sensors go bad sometimes, said he'd get maintenance out there, and he never did. And I didn't push it because, and I want to be honest here, some small part of me didn't actually want anyone to fix it. I wanted to understand what was happening first. So on night 5, I didn't wait for my scheduled walkthrough. At 12:10, I left the booth early and walked straight to row C. The lights came on ahead of me, one after another, all the way down the row, until C14. That one stayed dark, same as always. But this time I kept walking toward it instead of noting it and moving on. The unit door was one of those roll-up metal ones, painted the same faded orange as every other unit at Maple Grove. Nothing about it looked different from the outside. No lock hanging loose, no sign of forced entry. I stood in the dark patch in front of it, and it was cold there. Not, it's night, it's chilly cold. The kind of cold that makes the hair on your arm stand up before your brain catches up to why. I heard something shift inside the unit. Not a loud noise, a soft one. Fabric moving, or something dragging an inch across concrete. The kind of sound you'd make if you were sitting very still in the dark and had just adjusted your weight. I want to tell you I ran. That would be the smart thing to do, and if you're ever in that situation, please, just do the smart thing. But I didn't run. I said, "Hello?" Quiet, stupid, into a dark storage unit at midnight like I was checking on a neighbor. Nothing answered. But the sound stopped. Completely. Like whatever made it had gone still the second I spoke, the way an animal freezes when it knows it's been heard. That's when the light came on. Not gradually, not a flicker, all at once, blinding white, the sensor finally tripping like it was a full 10 seconds late, and in that half second of light before my eyes adjusted, I swear the shadow under the door, in that thin gap between the metal and the concrete, was wider than it should have been. Like something had been pressed right up against it, and it just pulled back. I didn't check the unit that night. I walked back to the booth at a pace that wasn't quite running but wasn't far off either, and I sat there until sunrise with every monitor switched to row C. The footage from my phone, because I'd started recording on my own after night 3, some instinct telling me the facility cameras weren't going to be enough, showed the same dark patch, the same 12 minutes of black. But right at the very end, in the last frame before the picture cleared, there's something in the corner of the shot, low to the ground, long, gone by the next frame. I quit 2 days later, told my supervisor I'd found a better job. He didn't ask why, which somehow bothered me more than if he had. I looked up the storage unit ownership records out of curiosity months after. C14 had been rented continuously for 11 years by the same name. I called the number on file once, working up the courage over a full week. It rang twice, and then a recorded voice told me the number was no longer in service. I never went back to Maple Grove. I don't know what's in C14. I don't want to know. But some nights, working my current job, a much quieter, much better lit parking garage, I'll walk past a light that's slow to click on, and for just a second, I have to remind myself to keep breathing normally, and to keep walking, and not to look too closely at the dark.